is just coming out when things go on in life. That's how trauma works.
Catelynn Baltera is finally setting the record straight about just how toxic her family really is. She's been opening up about her issues with her mom, April, and she hasn't been holding back. But what exactly happened that led to this boiling point between Catelynn and April? From substance use accusations to manipulation allegations, let's get into their crazy roller coaster of a relationship. Just a few weeks ago, Catelynn and Tyler had a visit with their daughter Carly, who they placed for adoption 14 years ago on 16 and pregnant. But even though they did their best to appreciate the entire visit, they were disappointed when April made a very alarming choice. Catelynn revealed in a heated Instagram post that on the last day of the visit, April consumed an adult beverage. Because of April's history of substance use, Catelynn has made her boundaries incredibly clear. Catelynn was frustrated because April had supposedly agreed to follow the boundary of not using any type of substances around her. I don't blame Catelynn for setting those limits in the first place. In the past, April's actions and substance use have created so much trouble with her daughter, it's honestly insane. When we were first introduced to Catelynn, the way April treated her was disturbing. Catelynn and Tyler were only 16 years old at the time, and they had decided to place their baby daughter up for adoption once she was born. But April was totally against their choice and made it clear with her ridiculous behavior. April belittled her own daughter so many times. She tried to get Catelynn to change her mind about the adoption by constantly manipulating her. What April did during Catelynn's pregnancy was just awful. April would tell Catelynn that she knew she changed her mind, and she even started buying baby clothes. But Catelynn knew how unpredictable her mom was and had to walk on eggshells around her all the time. She was set on adoption, but April was unsupportive even at the last minute. April completely disapproved of the adoption, but Catelynn was under 18 and needed a parent's permission. But April wouldn't agree to sign the papers, which is why the adoption had to take place off hospital grounds. It's bizarre that April couldn't see where Catelynn and Tyler were coming from with their decision. Her household was so unstable, mainly because of her substance use and disgusting behavior. But whenever Catelynn even tried to speak up for herself, April's response was extremely hateful. April would always talk down to Catelynn and threaten to kick her out. The way she regularly called Catelynn terrible names and put her down was so cruel. But how she reacted when her then husband Tyler's dad Butch confronted Catelynn after the adoption was downright shocking. In the first season of Teen Mom, Butch picked a fight with Catelynn over a tattoo she'd gotten of Carly's footprint. He kept arguing with her, and then he actually kind of threatened her. But when Catelynn stood up for herself, April's true colors were exposed. April made it known that she would choose her man over Catelynn like she had always done. She and Butch were both in Catelynn's face, screaming and tearing her down. I'd hate to see how chaotic they were when the cameras weren't around. April's vicious behavior was on display again when Catelynn and her friend Alexa were trying on prom dresses. She had apparently wanted to take them dress shopping, but how she treated Catelynn was seriously unbelievable. April reportedly called Catelynn's dress choices ugly and told her own daughter how horrible she looked. She continued to mock Catelynn and call her horrible names, and then texted her later to say that she owed her gas money. What should have been a fun bonding moment for Catelynn and her mom unsurprisingly turned into a nightmare. Alexa suggested that April hated seeing how Catelynn's life was turning out after the adoption. She thought that April had expected her daughter to be depressed and miserable, so she was angry that Catelynn was able to be happy at all. I hate to admit it, but the theory definitely makes sense. Over the years, Catelynn has struggled with her toxic upbringing. She's checked herself into mental health rehab facilities a few different times, and part of the reason was her unstable childhood. Sadly, her siblings also experienced April's unthinkable treatment. In 2012, Catelynn mentioned in a Teen Mom After Show that she would be willing to adopt her younger brother Nick if their mom continued to use substances. But what happened the following year was honestly unexpected. Believe it or not, Catelynn and Tyler were awarded legal guardianship of Catelynn's younger sister Sarah. They were only 5 years older than the 16-year-old, but they ultimately had to save her. What April had reportedly done was insanely harmful. Allegedly, April had been using substances again and kicked Sarah out of the house. Catelynn spoke to In Touch Weekly about how Sarah had been staying on an unsafe person's porch and didn't have any food. It's amazing that Tyler and Catelynn were able to help raise Sarah and get her on the right path, but the fact that they needed to rescue her after April kicked her out is so crazy. After April supposedly stopped using substances other than adult beverages, her relationship with Catelynn was still rocky. On a season 2 episode of Teen Mom Family Reunion, Catelynn made an emotional revelation. Catelynn revealed during a therapy exercise with April that she was tired of feeling like she had to be the perfect daughter. She was so used to not being able to rely on April, but apparently their trouble went much deeper than April not being kind or nurturing. April had previously confessed that she had a difficult relationship with her own mother. She knew how much work Catelynn had put into breaking that generational trauma, but she still hadn't been able to process her own problems and change her behavior. When the group's therapist, Coach B, asked who the parent in their relationship was, Catelynn and April were surprisingly both in agreement. Catelynn had to be responsible from such a young age and had helped April a lot, but unfortunately, Coach B couldn't help them fully move forward. Apparently, April is still as unhealthy and unpredictable as ever. Catelynn has been more vocal about separating her work from her family's behavior toward her, and that's the reason why it's devastating. Allegedly, April has been trying to turn her family members against Catelynn. She's been telling them a false narrative where Catelynn was the toxic, harmful one instead of her. And as insane as it sounds, some of them apparently sadly believe her. When Catelynn recently called her mom out for consuming an adult beverage during the visit with Carly, she had a valid reason. Her post included screenshots from messages that her 6-year-old brother Nick and April's mom Judy had sent her, and what they had to say to Catelynn was absolutely mind-boggling. Both Judy and Nick were calling Catelynn names and attacking her for the boundaries she had set with April about consuming substances around her. They dragged her for supposedly not treating April like a mother, which is honestly ridiculous. April has never really acted like an actual mother toward Catelynn. Even when they had less chaotic moments in the relationship and were getting along better, it wasn't exactly healthy. And now Catelynn is spilling all the tea about her so-called narcissistic family. After Catelynn fired back in her post, Nick went live on Instagram to reveal all the dirty secrets he could about his sister and Tyler. It was completely uncalled for, and he apparently did it because he believes April's lies about Catelynn. Catelynn even pointed out in her podcast that someday Nick will understand the truth. But while he's still under April's manipulative spell, he's fighting Catelynn for her. But she's not taking any mistreatment anymore, and she's made that unbelievably clear. Ever since the incident during the visit, Catelynn has been sharing quotes and videos about cutting off toxic family members. Thankfully, she's been getting an overwhelming amount of positive feedback and support from her Instagram followers. But the reality of the situation is still so heartbreaking. April has proven time and time again that she's not able to put her kids first. With all of her verbal attacks, mockery, and cold behavior, it's no wonder her daughter has struggled to feel loved by her. But Catelynn has been doing her best to make sure her daughter never has to experience that kind of cruelty. Catelynn has done so much therapy and mental work to break the generational cycle. We'll just have to wait and see what happens next, but I have a feeling she won't be talking to her mom for a very long time. But now I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on Catelynn's recent post about what April did during the visit with Carly? What do you think about Catelynn cutting off contact with her toxic family members? Let me know in the comments below.